stunned him or hurt him, whereas Yagin did to Homnick on quite a few occasions. Homnick, I believe, was a better fighter, but whenever you have somebody swinging for the fences and you make those mistakes and you get stunned, that's a lot of points against you. The next fight after that was Miguel Torres and Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald ended up winning via KO in the first round with 3 minutes and 18 seconds into the first round. It was another case of complete outclass. Obviously ended quickly, but Michael McDonald was never in any trouble at all in that fight. He had his knockout punch was actually beautiful. He had a slip to the left and an uppercut up underneath Miguel Torres' left, I believe it was, and that stunned Torres, and then he hit him with another uppercut and knocked him out. It was a good fight. Miguel Torres, he seems to be going the way of other MMA legends, which he is. He was at one time considered one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and he just seems to be struggling. He hasn't stopped. The next three are the main fights, and the first one was Brendan Schaub versus Ben Rothwell. I really thought that Brendan Schaub was going to actually take this fight. He seems to be a lot better of a technical fighter, a lot better striking. His problem is he has a glass jaw, and that was his problem here. Ben Rothwell ended up knocking him out 110 in the first round, and it was kind of funny because Brendan Schaub was actually teeing off on him already, and Ben Rothwell just happened to catch a wild right and caught him right in the temple and put Brendan Schaub to sleep. Brendan, he just needs to change up his game. He is getting just knocked out way too much, and it's not your fault if you have that much of a glass chin, but you have to account for it. You have to guard it. Yeah, you have to account for it. You can't sit there and be teeing off on somebody without protecting yourself, especially somebody as big as Ben Rothwell. He's a bigger heavyweight, and I do give him credit. He came in the most in shape, the longest I've seen him in a long time. The co-main event was Michael McDonald versus Che Mills. Michael McDonald came out and completely destroyed him in every aspect, and Rory McDonald, I apologize, Rory, not Michael. Rory, to me, in the welterweight class, he is easily the second best to GSP. It was ended second round, 2 minutes 20 seconds in the second round, TKO. Che might have been able to have a closer match with him if he would have left it standing. He seemed to have one good punch on Rory while they're standing up, and Rory went to the ground, and from there it was all over. I think Che had about 3 cuts going in the second round, and about 20 seconds in, he was already down on the ground and bleeding again. So it was just complete domination. And I really want to see Rory. I know he's already fought one of the Diaz brothers, and he's also fought Condit, and he lost in the third round via TKO, which I think he'd beat Condit if they had a rematch. He's just leaps and bounds every fight. He's getting so much better. But I'd really like to see him versus Johnny Hendricks. Trying to think of some of the other ones in the welterweight division. I'm honestly drawing a blank right now. Well,
while you mention it, honestly, I enjoy watching the lighter weight classes as opposed to the heavier classes personally. I know your average person gets all riled up about the heavier classes, but to me, the lighter classes seems more diversity in the fighting style. They're on the ground more takedowns and stuff like that. I just don't like when the heavier weights turn into professional boxing, you know?
Yeah, the lighter weights, they have a lot crisper technique. They're a lot faster. They can keep up the pace a lot more because they're not carrying as much weight around. And I don't understand how a lot of the difference between a lot of the heavier weights and their technique and a lot of the lower weights and their technique can, seem so opposite of each other. I'm not just talking about, as far as hand speed or, takedown speed, smoothness and stuff, because obviously the heavier weights are carrying more weight around, so you wouldn't expect that. But just the crispness of everything seems to be a lot of higher quality in a lot of the lighter weights.
And just so you know, I don't think you mentioned this, Mr. Tyler here is a black belt. Just so you know.
yeah, I would like to do an MMA fight eventually. I just need to get some things sorted out first beforehand, obviously. Now, once again, Rory, I'd like to see him go against some of the other upper tier welterweights. Che Mills, no offense to him, he's a great fighter, but there's some higher quality competition in that weight class. Now, on to the main event. It was Rashad Evans versus John Jones. Very much hyped fight. A lot of people have been waiting on it for a long time. Rashad only had one loss to Lyoto Machida, and John Jones technically only had one loss to Matt Hamill, which he actually got disqualified. He threw a technique that he didn't realize was illegal. But former training partners, it was a lot of people were seeing it as a matchup between John Jones and his reach and his unpredictableness, and Rashad Evans and his speed. And watching the fight, you could definitely tell that they were training partners. They were filling each other out quite a bit. John Jones wasn't throwing, near the off-the-wall stuff that he usually throws. A lot of times he's throwing spinning back fists, spinning elbows, spinning back kicks. He wasn't throwing a lot of spinning stuff. And Rashad was actually countering fairly well with his speed and everything. I really thought that Jones was going to put him down in the second or third round before the fight happened.
It definitely felt to me that Jones seemed to be holding back a little bit. And as I was watching this fight, I was trying to figure in my head, was it a friendship that he was, the possibility maybe he was taking it easy on him, or was he just being conservative and not letting himself mess up, not getting too cocky, or what was going on there. But the whole time I watched the fight, I had the impression that Jones was almost toying with him.
I would agree. I think it was really more holding back that because he was worried about Rashad, being that he had all that experience training with him, but also Rashad had all that speed. And to me, as far as strict MMA movement, obviously in MMA it's a wealth of skills, but there's a stereotypical model that people try and follow, and to me, Rashad Evans is the pinnacle of that stereotypical model as far as his hands up, how his knees are bent, and his waist and shoulders are squared up, and his head movement. He is, like I said, the pinnacle of that stereotypical model right now. Obviously, there's certain people that are, just don't fall under anything. And like Lyoto Machida, he has his legs forward and his head back. But like I said, John Jones seemed to be worried about his speed, worried about his head movement, and coming in and catching that shot. The make or break factor of it, the one that really opened it up, was Jones and those sneaky elbows that he was throwing. Basically, he was having his hands out away from his body, and he would kind of dive in and collapse his arm, and his elbow would come out of nowhere and catch him. And I was cracking up in the second round because at one point, I think Jones caught him with a hook or a jab, and everybody thought Rashad got stunned, and Rashad kind of cockily walked back to the center of the ring, like he wiped it off, and less than a minute later, Jones caught him with one of those elbows and swung out to the side, and he wasn't wiping that one off. He got stunned a little bit.
Well, I'm no expert in this, but what was going through my mind the whole time, I was thinking that, I was predicting in my mind Rashad Evans to lose this, because one thing I noticed is the difference in reach between Jones and Rashad. That, I was thinking the whole time, I was like, he needs to get in there close, because, Jones, his arms and legs is a sniper rifle of, Jones is going to have to, Evans is going to have to get in to where it's more of a fair fight. And, granted, you might take a beating coming in instead of keeping your distance, but it felt to me that Jones just kept keeping his distance, and he finally made his move. I don't remember exactly, but 20 seconds for the end of the match, and it was too late. Jones wasn't hurting enough. The takedown wasn't brutal enough. And,
actually, Jones actually ended up pulling guard. A lot of people, when they first saw that, they thought that, Rashad actually took him down. But Jones was actually pulling guard because, Rashad's a pretty dynamic and fast striker from his feet. Really, I thought the only way that Rashad was going to be able to win this is get inside, get him pinned up against the fence, and try and suffocate him and get a little bit of dirty boxing. I To me, though, the only way somebody's going to beat Jones in the foreseeable future in the light heavyweight division, somebody's going to have to learn leg kicks and just try and hack at those legs. His legs are not built. They're very skinny, very twig-like. Not saying that he's not an in-shape guy, but you can tell he's not really pushing around the weights, or else he wouldn't be able to make that weight class.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see him getting beaten. It's kind of funny because I actually think Forrest Griffin, who's kind of the joke now, especially after that Anderson Silva fight, he just hasn't been the same since that. I actually think back in the day whenever he was beating Shogun Rua and Rampage Jackson and beating all those guys, I actually think he would have had a chance against Jones because he had the best leg kicks in the light heavyweight division, period. But to me, that's the only way I think anybody's going to beat Jones anytime soon, unless he goes to the light heavyweight division the heavyweight division. If he stays in the light heavyweight for the next few years, the only way somebody's going to beat him is hacking at those legs. Now that Jones has beat Evans, he beat Machida, he beat Rampage, he beat Shogun to win the title. Who's going to be there? Who's going to be able to fight him? That's not going to be a rematch. He's going to be able to give him a run for his money. Do you see anybody in the light heavyweight division at all? Or
I know if I make a prediction, it'll be wrong. So
no, the only thing I can see as far as between around that light heavyweight division is Anderson Silva. I really think that before Silva retires, that Dana White is going to try to make that fight happen. That would be the biggest fight in UFC since probably the Tito Ortiz Chuck Liddell fight back in the day. That'd probably be the biggest one. And obviously, since the crowd for UFC is bigger now, they draw in more pay-per-views than that, which I believe that one's already been long since passed. But back in the day, that was the fight. I'd also just like to say that UFC, they seem to be really doing well as far as their promotion. There's that time period for about a month and a half, 2 months, where it's just UFC event after UFC event, and it was actually getting tiring, and they put it off for a month and a half, and right before 2 weeks before that fight, I was getting the itch to see another UFC fight.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that you can hate Dana White all you want and hate the UFC, just like the fights, but they got their marketing down. They know what to do, when to do it, and that's the reason why they're having such success. They know how to promote their fights and they know how to market them.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if they're still doing this or not, but like a year ago, I was really thinking about. I thought the Marine Corps sponsorship and that involvement was a smart move for both UFC and the Marine Corps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The next card is actually this upcoming weekend. I believe it's UFC on Fox. I don't have the card in front of me, but hopefully next weekend I'll touch on those. I think Johnny Hendricks is having a fairly big fight as well, which he's coming off of a huge knockout of John Fitch. I think that happened within the first 10 seconds. Yeah, he basically came out there saying, "I'm going to try and throw one punch as hard as I can, see what it does," and ended up knocking him out. So those are another two guys I'd like to see Rory fight. But so hopefully next weekend I'll be able to touch on that a bit, and that's the overview of how the UFC event went.
Sorry, while you're talking about it, it reminded me. We have plenty of male self-defense people involved in the show. What I would like to hear from is some female self-defense experts, both martial arts and firearms, particularly if you cater to teaching females self-defense / firearms martial arts.